In the opening scene, Annabelle enters her bridal shop named So You Said Yes. She's meeting Maya, who is already there. She apologizes for her lateness, explaining that it was due to a nightmare. Maya asks if it's the same nightmare and she confirms it. Annabelle tells Maya to stop her if she ever tries to sell a pearl dress to a customer. They are preparing for the opening of her shop and they start talking about the other similar shop in town. Annabelle states that she is not here for the competition, she just wants to provide an alternative to brides-to-be. At Ever After, the rival wedding shop, a customer tries on a wedding dress. The customer and her mother are happy with the dress, but Mrs. Taylor Claire, the owner of the shop, is not satisfied with it and makes some adjustments. The bride-to-be tells her mother that she'd like to check out the new wedding shop. Mrs. Taylor overhears their dialogue. The customer's mother makes up an excuse and they exit, leaving Taylor in utter disbelief. Meanwhile, at a coffee shop, Annabelle's father congratulates her on her shop. Her father jokes that she must have gotten her love for weddings from him, seeing that he's been married 3 times. Annabelle's shop is officially opening the next day and her father apologizes for not being able to attend due to a business trip. Her dad then brings her attention to her single life. She promises that she will pay attention to her personal life after her business succeeds, but her father advises her not to hide behind her work. Annabelle compliments her customer's dress and says it is reminiscent of the pictures of the Greek goddess Hera, who was married to Zeus and became queen of all wives. The customer states how she prefers her shop compared to the other one. The bride opens up to Annabelle about her worries, so she assures her that everything will be all right. A man she assumes is her customer's fiancé enters her shop, but Annabelle stops him from seeing his wife to be in her wedding dress. She lectures him on the key to a good relationship, after learning that he plans to go golfing on his honeymoon. He tries to interrupt her, but she continues anyway. When she's done lecturing him, she notices her car is being taken away, which is what the man was trying to tell her. Later on, Annabelle finds that she has mistaken the man named Sam for her customer's fiancé. As Sam leaves, a woman whose name is Beverly stops him and asks about his date, to which he replies that they're not meant to be. She tries to set him up with her dentist, but he just laughs and leaves. In the next scene, Annabelle and Maya are at a cafe talking about their schedules and plans for the next day. In another scene, Annabelle and Sam meet at a coffee shop. Annabelle confronts Sam for not telling her about her car the other day, so he points out that she did not allow him to speak. They talk about marriage and she finds out that Sam has never been married, and is also the only child. He bids her good luck as he is about to leave and gives his business card to Annabelle. She looks at it and discovers that he's a lawyer. In the next scene, Sam is on a phone call with his mother, who is not happy with the date Beverly wants to set up for him. She tells him that she wants the best for him before the call ends. Later on, Annabelle receives an email from Sam who is thanking her for the invite to her opening party, but she is puzzled because she didn't send any invite. Maya confesses to being the one that invited him through the business card he had given Annabelle, to create a good relationship with the neighbors. Maya tries to talk Annabelle into dating, but she insists that she just wants to focus on her business. In the next scene, Mrs. Taylor is seen at Annabelle's welcome party. Annabelle approaches Mrs. Taylor and her assistant, Edward, to start a conversation with them. Mrs. Taylor gives her a welcome gift and Annabelle is happy to meet a fellow businesswoman. At the party, Mrs. Taylor overhears 2 ladies talking about how old-fashioned Ever After is, saying that they prefer So You Said Yes, which leaves her heart broken. After the party, Maya and Annabelle are cleaning and talking about Sam, who did not show up for the party. Maya keeps trying to pair Annabelle with Sam, but the former tells her that she's not interested. Still, Maya does not believe her and is not about to give up yet. While they're still discussing, Sam enters the shop. He apologizes for his lateness and Maya offers him a drink, which he declines. Maya tries to set them up together and leaves after succeeding. Later on, Annabelle and Sam have dinner in the shop, talking about food. She tells Sam that she's a vegetarian. After dinner, they go for a stroll. Annabelle calls Sam's attention to a car she likes parked outside, which belongs to Sam. She finds this hard to believe. The next day, Sam meets his mother at Ever After. He greets her and tries to tell her something, but she keeps interrupting him talking about Annabelle's shop, saying that the whole thing doesn't make sense. After talking for a while, she's finally ready to hear what Sam has to say, but he postpones it. At Anna's shop, she and Maya talk about the second date with Sam. While they're talking, a customer comes out of the dressing room in a wedding gown. As they are all marveling at how pretty the bride looks, Sam enters the shop. Next, Sam and Annabelle are discussing something about the shop when Beverly enters. Sam introduces Annabelle to Beverly, but the latter has already heard of her. Beverly assumes Sam and Annabelle are on a date, but Annabelle clarifies that it is an outing. Before leaving, Beverly tells Sam that her dentist is still available. Then, after the outing, they decide to meet again. Later on, Maya and Annabelle are advertising their shop, and so is Mrs. Taylor, but things are not working well for the latter. In the next scene, Annabelle and Sam are playing golf. Sam picks an eyelash on Annabelle and asks her to make a wish. Then they kiss each other. Soon, Annabelle scores a point in golf and they rejoice. Just then, Hillary Jackson, Sam's college friend, bumps into them. She lets Sam know that she's back for good and is going through a divorce. Sam and Hillary had dated in the past, so the situation becomes awkward. In the next scene, Mrs. Taylor is trying to stalk Annabelle online. Her assistant helps her when she encounters a problem. Mrs. Taylor finds out that "So You Said Yes" is giving a free massage to customers to promote their business. Realizing this, Mrs. Taylor is determined to do anything that will surpass the fame of Annabelle's shop. Later on, Sam is at Annabelle's house and sees that she has a cat. They talk while having dinner and things seem to be going smoothly between them. In the next scene, Annabelle and Sam are now officially dating. Annabelle explains why she feels uncomfortable with the title girlfriend to Sam, but he assures her that everything will be alright. In the next scene, Mrs. Taylor and Edward are in front of the mayor's house. She tells him that the mayor's daughter plans on wearing her dress and boasts that her dresses are the best. Upon entering the house, Mrs. Taylor sees Annabelle there. The mayor's wife apologizes and tries to reschedule with Mrs. Taylor, but she decides to stay and see Annabelle's dresses. The two shop owners try their best to win the customer's attention, and the meeting gets postponed. Outside the house, both shop owners agree that they don't like each other. In the next scene, Hillary and Mrs. Taylor meet. She tells Hillary that she's stressed because of Annabelle's shop. She tries to set Hillary up with Sam by inviting her to a gathering. Initially, Hillary doesn't agree to the plan, but she eventually gives in. Later on, Mrs. Taylor goes to Sam's office to invite him to the same anniversary party she had invited Hillary to. In the next scene, Meyer and Annabelle talk about Sam as they see him entering the anniversary gathering. His mother introduces him to Hillary. He calls his mother aside, telling her he already has a girlfriend. They hear voices behind a flower decoration, which turns out to be Annabelle and Maya. Sam introduces Annabelle to his mother as his girlfriend, and the situation becomes awkward. The next day at her shop, Annabelle is done attending to a customer when she receives a phone call from Sam, but she declines it. She receives a package from Sam through a delivery person but is still not moved. In truth, she is not comfortable with Mrs. Taylor being Sam's mother and feels like the relationship won't work. In the next scene, Annabelle is in a meditation class trying to clear her mind. Sam enters the class and carries a yoga mat, positioning beside Annabelle during the stretching session. He tries to clear the misunderstanding and tells her how much she means to him. Then, Sam breaks the news about his mother inviting them to dinner. Later on, Annabelle is at her house, trying to look her best to impress Mrs. Taylor, but Sam tells her to just be herself. Annabelle is worried that his mother hates her, but he reassures her that everything will be alright. The next scene takes place at Mrs. Taylor's house. Annabelle tries to engage her in a conversation. They talk about traveling and find out that they both love it. The atmosphere becomes awkward when Sam leaves to attend to something. They are talking about Mrs. Taylor's wedding dress in the picture, which Annabelle compliments. Mrs. Taylor tells Annabelle that her financial situation in the past made her start the business so she can give women what she was not able to have. This warms Annabelle's heart. Later in the evening, Annabelle and Sam take a stroll. They both confess that it's a surprise that the dinner went well. Then, the two profess their love for each other and kiss, melting into each other's warm embrace. The next day, Annabelle's dad enters her shop, surprising her. He sees the love letter sent by Sam. In the next scene, Annabelle and her dad are at a coffee shop talking about her relationship with Sam. She is sure about her feelings for Sam, and her dad gives her a bit of advice. Later on, Mrs. Taylor visits Sam at his office. She brings lunch for him and she brings Hillary with her too. It appears that she does not support Annabelle and Sam's relationship, so she's trying to set her son up with Hillary. Soon, she leaves them together. Sam, however, tells Hillary about his plans to propose to Annabelle, and she's happy for him and even offers to help him. In the next scene, Hillary meets with Annabelle at the coffee shop. They talk about Annabelle's relationship with Sam. Out of curiosity, Annabelle asks Hillary what her relationship with Sam is like. Hillary tells her all about her time with him and how romantic Sam was. Annabelle gets jealous and leaves. Later on, Annabelle goes to Sam's office. Still jealous, she asks Sam if he is still interested in Hillary. She's not happy that he had a more romantic relationship with Hillary than with her. Sam refutes her claim, stating that he loves every moment he has spent with her. He decides to propose to her at that exact moment. He gets on one knee and pops the question. She kneels too and accepts his proposal. Overjoyed, he puts the ring on her finger and they kiss. Unbeknownst to them, Mrs. Taylor is at the door and sees the happy moment between the two. In the next scene, Mrs. Taylor walks into Annabelle's shop, while Annabelle is attending to a customer. The older woman commends Annabelle's work on the customer. She assures Annabelle that she'll be there to help whenever she needs her. This statement makes Annabelle ecstatic, promising to keep the offer in mind. At Mrs. Taylor's house, she puts herself in charge of the wedding plans while Annabelle and Sam are present. She wants to go big with the wedding, without even asking for the couple's opinion. She even invites a chef. Annabelle tells her about her problem with the food, but the woman does not seem to care. In the next scene, Annabelle tells Hillary how controlling Mrs. Taylor is about the wedding. She doesn't want to disappoint her fiancé's mother, so she keeps quiet. Hillary urges Annabelle to take charge, since it is her wedding. Eventually, Annabelle decides to set boundaries and leaves to confront Mrs. Taylor. And ever after, Mrs. Taylor is attending to a customer when Annabelle enters the shop. She's stopped by Edward, who tells her that her boss is busy at the moment. The customer leaves and Mrs. Taylor spots Annabelle. However, Annabelle is unable to tell Mrs. Taylor what she came there to say. Instead, she lies that she only wanted to compliment a dress. Mrs. Taylor is so happy to hear this, because she thought Annabelle should wear the same exact dress for her wedding. Hearing this, Annabelle interrupts Mrs. Taylor, trying to say she wants to take charge. However, staring into Mrs. Taylor's expectant expression scares her. She ends up agreeing to try the dress on. This makes the older woman excited, so she calls Edward to help her with the fitting. Later on, Annabelle comes out of the fitting room looking stunning, but she is not comfortable in the dress. Mrs. Taylor compliments Annabelle. Just then, Sam enters the shop and Mrs. Taylor asks Edward to stop him from getting in any further, because he shouldn't see his bride to be in the wedding dress before the wedding. Sam asks his mother where Annabelle is, so she tells him that she is in the dressing room. She tells Sam that she has had some breakthroughs with Annabelle. Sam feels relieved, thinking that Annabelle has told his mother what is truly on her mind. As Mrs. Taylor leaves to attend to a customer, Sam sees Annabelle, who is now coming out of the fitting room in her previous clothes. He tells her he is proud of her for having the courage to face his mother. Annabelle wants to tell Sam the truth, but is interrupted by him telling her that he knew she and his mother were going to get along. He gives her a cup of coffee, expressing how the engagement party is going to be great. In reality, Annabelle is very uncomfortable with the whole situation. At the engagement party, Mrs. Taylor and Sam meet Annabelle and her father, Nick Blanche. Nick flatters Mrs. Taylor as he introduces himself to her. When Annabelle introduces herself to Mrs. Taylor's friends, she becomes uncomfortable as they ask all sorts of inappropriate questions. In the next scene, Annabelle is alone in a corner eating a piece of cake, when Sam sits beside her. She's stress eating, so Sam asks if she wants to talk about it, but she declines. She is annoyed by the entire situation at the engagement party, especially with Mrs. Taylor and her friends. Sam notices that Annabelle has not spoken to his mother, and he decides to do something about it. The next day at the shop, Annabelle, Sam, and his mom are having a little meeting. He suggests that Annabelle speaks first, encouraging her to tell his mother how she has been feeling concerning the wedding planning. Annabelle still can't summon the courage, so Sam guides her. She faces Mrs. Taylor and tells her that she appreciates her willingness to help with planning the wedding, but is not pleased with her dismissing her ideas. Mrs. Taylor apologizes, saying it was not her intention. Sam asks for examples of incidents where Mrs. Taylor dismisses Annabelle's ideas. Annabelle mentions a few from her 3-page printed sheets. The older woman is still not satisfied with Annabelle's ideas and calls them impulsive. This is when Annabelle points out that it is her and Sam's wedding, not hers. However, Mrs. Taylor makes the situation worse by mentioning Annabelle's father's married life and how it might affect the girl's commitment to her married life. Annabelle is livid. She points out that she has been trying her best to get along with Mrs. Taylor because she loves Sam. However, she has now realized that she will never be good enough for Sam. Crying, she runs out, leaving Sam alone with his mother. The next day, at Annabelle's shop, Meyer and Hillary are trying to talk Annabelle out of the whole Mrs. Taylor situation. Hillary tells Annabelle to be positive. Although she says she is positive, she is not acting like it. A customer walks into the shop, seeing Annabelle stuffing her face with pastries. The customer points out that Annabelle looks so different than she looks in the blogs, and compliments her on her work. She just tells the customer she has a new approach to weddings. The curious customer asks what it is, and she advises her not to get married. Maya tries to cover up for what Annabelle said and takes the customer to check out different wedding dresses. The customer picks up a locket and reads the writing on it saying, "I will love you until the end of time." The customer points out that it is so romantic. Annabelle spoils the mood by bringing up Mrs. Taylor's matter and ends up chasing the customer away. Later on, her dad enters the shop to see Annabelle looking pathetic, stuffing her face with chocolate-flavored ice cream. He tries to cheer her up by telling her a story of him and her mother. They had fought over a couch after getting engaged and moving in together, because her mom hated the couch. The couch was important to him, but her mother could not get past how ugly it was and did not want it in their new apartment. It led to some other arguments and they decided to call things off. Annabelle is surprised because she has never heard about this story. Her father continues the story. Nick asked Annabelle's mother if she knew why the couch was so important to him. He tells her that the moment he laid his eyes on her and knew he was going to marry her, it was the very couch she was seated on. Annabelle's heart is warmed by the story. Her parents got re-engaged and she let him keep the couch after making it prettier. Nick mentions rocking Annabelle to sleep on the couch when she was a baby. Nick also mentions that he knows he has not been a role model when it comes to commitment, and when it comes to his job. He knows people and he assures Annabelle that Sam is a good man. He tells her that aside from the wedding planning, Mrs. Taylor is a good person. He advises that she should give them a second chance before letting it all go. He reminds her that it is not where they both come from that matters, it is where they go as a couple. At Ever After, Edward, Mrs. Taylor's assistant, offers to talk to his boss. She says if it is about convincing her to blog, her answer is still no. Edward tells her it is not about the blog. He states that he knows he does not have the right to meddle, but he tells her that in the whole wedding planning situation, she is on the wrong. Edward compliments Annabelle's character and attributes, and he mentions that Annabelle still loves Sam just like Mrs. Taylor loved her husband. He further states that even though the wedding will be different, it does not mean it will not be beautiful. Mrs. Taylor is left speechless. In the next scene, Sam is in his office expecting Annabelle. His hopes are raised when his phone buzzes, thinking it is from Annabelle. He hurriedly picks it up but sees that it is a message from his friend. He hears a knock on the door, but it isn't Annabelle either. It's his mother and he is not happy to see her. Seeing her late husband's picture on Sam's table, she starts a conversation about how Sam's father loved him so much. Sam corrects her, saying he loved both of them so much. She said she dated other men after the passing of his father, but no one could ever replace him. Only Sam is what has kept her going. That's why she was not taking it easy on Annabelle, because she was afraid she would also lose Sam. Then, she picks up Annabelle's picture from his table and criticizes it, but apologizes when she sees the look on Sam's face. She tells Sam that she thinks Annabelle and him are perfect for each other, so they should hurry up and get married soon. This makes Sam feel happy, so he hugs his mom. He assures her that he is not leaving her but instead, she is gaining a daughter, adding that Annabelle will need a mom. Later on, Mrs. Taylor visits Annabelle in her shop. She tells Annabelle the story of the first time she met her mother-in-law. It was on Thanksgiving Day and she felt like she did not belong. So she went to the ladies' room, cried, and fixed her makeup. She met Sam's dad outside the bathroom and suggested that they go their separate ways, but told her he would follow her if she leaves. He had also told her that it was unfair to judge them based on their appearances and actions. They got back to the table and she discovered that they were good people. In tears, she apologizes to Annabelle for everything she did. She gives Annabelle her wedding dress and allows her to do anything she wants with it. Annabelle smiles and is glad that finally they can patch things up. In the next scene, Annabelle is on a phone call. When she opens the door, she sees Sam. Sam is surprised at how his mother has changed and is happy about the reformed relations between Annabelle and his mom. Later, we see Annabelle and Mrs. Taylor spending quality time together and making preparations for the wedding. In the next scene, Annabelle, Sam, and his mother are at her house finalizing the wedding preparations. Everything is set and they are all satisfied with the plan. On the day of the wedding, it is raining even though Annabelle has been checking the weather forecast for days and nothing was said about rain on that day. Their backup plan is of no use either. Mrs. Taylor tells them that she has an idea for where they should have the wedding. They end up having their beautiful wedding in the town's building. They are pronounced husband and wife and they seal it with a kiss.